let's get down to Ronda Rousey taking on Amanda Nunes. First off, was I surprised? No, I was not surprised. I actually text messaged John Anik, who was doing the pre- and post-fight show the day of the fight, and he said, man, Rousey looks in great shape. What are you thinking on this one? I said, honestly, my gut says Amanda Nunes. It says Amanda Nunes, and I felt that the entire time. You know, number one, it is very, very difficult for a fighter like Ronda Rousey to have that much time off and then come back against a lady like Amanda Nunes, who has been doing outstanding, consistent, and in a rhythm in fighting. Okay, I mean, when you take that much time off in a fight, there's a lot of things mentally you've got to overcome. So I was not surprised by it. I've read and I've listened to some of the reactions of this fight, and I differ a little bit from a bunch of them. There's a lot of people I feel that are talking about this fight, and they're breaking it down like this fight went on for a couple of rounds. It was 48 seconds, folks. So when people are calling in and they're making these comments on Ronda never did this or she didn't do that, guys, in the first 15 seconds of this fight, she was blasted with a straight right followed by a left jab and rocked her head right back in the first 15 seconds of the fight. Okay? Let me tell you something. When you're in that octagon, and even more so than when you have the kind of layoff that Ronda had, very long layoff, right? The first 30 seconds, even sometimes the first couple minutes of a fight, is almost like an out-of-body experience. Okay, you are back in the locker room. You're working out. You're warming up, right? The nerves, the anxiety are high. I mean, even George St. Pierre used to scream that he wished the lights would fall down on the octagon so he didn't have to make the walk. He was terrified backstage. He used to think I was crazy. And this isn't like in the beginning. This is GSP throughout his entire career, was terrified of the fight. Cowboy Cerrone used to hate the fight, still deals with a ton of anxiety. That's why he fights every other month so that he can get used to it, get more in rhythm. When you fight often, 3 to 4 times a year, you start to get used to that anxiety and you are now in a rhythm and you settle into the fight quicker. When you are out for a long time and then your comeback fight is this huge stage and you're a star at the level of Ronda Rousey, the anxiety, everything that's on the line, it's so much more. It's not like the first fight of the night when there's nobody in the arena. So then it's going to take Ronda even longer to settle into the fight where it's not an out-of-body experience anymore. She's there. She's conscious. She's reading openings. She starts to execute her game plan. A lot of times it takes you to throw a combination, maybe even get tagged once. You kind of wake up, okay, now you get going. Well, Amanda Nunes did the perfect thing. If I was cornering her, it's exactly what I would tell her. Look, when you got someone who's coming off this big of a layoff, their first battle is to get comfortable in the octagon again. You jump them and make sure that that doesn't happen. Jump them, pop them in the mouth, make them immediately start to doubt themselves and doubt their return and why they're in there. Capitalize on all the anxiety that they have because they haven't been in that octagon in a long time. And Amanda Nunes did just that. She popped her right in the mouth, and then she tagged her again and tagged her again. Ronda could very well have gotten rocked with the first combination that hit her. She got hit hard, her head snapped back, and sometimes when that happens, your ears start ringing, you get a little bit buzzed, and that will then take you many seconds, sometimes 30, even a couple of minutes, to settle back down and into the fight. So I think some of the criticism of she thought she was a striker, she didn't go back to her roots as a judoka, and all this other stuff, guys, that is all pure speculation. There just wasn't enough time in that fight to make that statement and make it a fair statement. I really do. I think more credit should be given to Amanda Nunes for going out there and jumping her right away, for saying, you know what, I'm going to exploit this right away. I am not going to let you get your hands on me. She finished her first beautiful combination with the jab, which really allows you to maintain distance and range and get them off of you because Ronda tried to grab her, tried to get a grip on her at that point, took that away from her immediately. I think we have to give more credit to Amanda Nunes, her game plan, and what she did coming out there confident and knocking any confidence whatsoever, any consciousness out of the head of Ronda Rousey quickly, so that she never got comfortable in there. She was never able to settle in that fight and feel like she was at home. The other thing that I think is getting misplaced is not to take away any of the accomplishments of what Ronda has done. None of them, right? but the lofty expectations are tough because at the time that she was smoking everybody, right, in the first minute, outside of Sarah McMahon, she was beating women that athletically were nowhere near her caliber. I mean, there were only 20 to 30 women, in the world really doing this sport, at that level. And I wouldn't even call it a world-class level yet, right? And her already being an Olympian who's training her whole life is now taking on mixed martial artists who've only been doing it for like 5 years. That's a massive, massive advantage. Massive advantage. So this was bound to happen. At some point, there was going to be a big fall here when she ran into Holly Holm. Not that surprising that Holly was able to do what she does, having been an athlete her whole life, having been a combat sports athlete for a very long time, being a more physical woman than her by a long shot helped as well. Now taking on Amanda Nunes, who's a very well-rounded athlete, who's hungry, who still lives in an apartment while Ronda probably owns a beautiful home in Hollywood and has millions in the bank account. Amanda Nunes is hungry. I mean, this is an awful, awful matchup for a woman coming off a devastating loss versus Holly Holm and then taking on someone like Amanda Nunes. Nobody should be surprised at how this fight went down at all. Now, let me get into what I talked about this, just 10 minutes ago with RJ Clifford on the Luke Thomas show. I think a lot of other people's takes on the aftermath, right? How Ronda handled the defeat, and people are trashing her. I'm not saying that she deserves to be applauded or that she even deserves to be defended for her antics afterwards. But I also just don't think it's that inconsistent with who she is. When she lost to Holly, she flew into LAX airport and covered her face with a pillow, right? Now, to her defense, no fighter up to that point has ever seen even remotely close the level of media attention that she had to deal with. Nobody. So it's a much bigger fall from grace for her, obviously. But I just don't think her behavior is that inconsistent with who she is. I think she's being honest. And not everybody handles losing very well. And that's, I don't think it's a quality that deserves people to hate them, because if she didn't act that way, we wouldn't celebrate other athletes for the kind of class and dignity they show in defeat like Dominic Cruz did, right? He went out there, and he's a very prideful guy. He's got an ego like the rest of us. Hey, I'm going to take this like a man. Good for you, Cody. You outfought me tonight. You controlled range better. You did this. You pulled me into the center. Excellent work. That wouldn't be so special if there weren't people who handled losses as badly as some others do, right? And that's just how it goes, right? So I think that we place some demands on our stars that are almost a little bit too high. We've got, I'm not saying to lower the bar, but look, when you're going to celebrate something as excellent as and as hard as it is to be classy in defeat, right, to show character in defeat, that's a celebrated thing because it's hard. It's not easy. If it was easy, every dang fighter would do it. Are we disappointed how she handled it? Should she have handled it better? Yes. But I didn't expect her to. In all honesty, with what we saw, I expected her to walk out of that octagon and say, you know what, I'm out of here. And maybe she knows herself well, and she knows that she gets a little too emotional in those situations and maybe says things that she regrets. So let me take some time and just get out of here before I make matters worse. And maybe in that case, it was a smart decision for her. So, again, I'm not necessarily defending her. I'm just saying that I think people who are crushing her for it are going a little too far, and that their expectations of how she should handle that matter are a little too high, right? Because if she handled the way that they expect her to, well, look, you can't expect every champion to be a champion in and out of the octagon, or else we wouldn't celebrate those people as much. It wouldn't be as special as they did.